What is an absolute truth that no one wants to hear? It is possible to make no mistakes and still lose. That is not failure, that is life. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. You need to have your views challenged. Being around and positively engaging with people who disagree with you is one of the healthiest intellectual practices we can do. Just because someone is related to you doesn't mean they are a good person. You can't control what happens to you, only how you react to it. Just because you love someone, it doesn't mean they will love you back. No matter how hard you try to get them to, they just won't. Even though you think your kids are special, they are most likely just average. Your spouse, child, home, job, vacation, etc. is not nearly as important to anyone else as it is to you. We don't know everything and probably never will. Life is easier for attractive people. No matter how nice you are, people will still just be assholes to you just cuz. There's going to be a day where you are totally forgotten by everyone. Everyone's a hypocrite. Even you. Costco has tubs of 7 pounds nacho cheese for sale at $6.50 a piece. 7 pounds of nacho cheese works out to about 2,800 cubic centimeters. A typical bathtub has a volume of 160,000 cubic centimeters. Here are your volumes based on weights, approximately, and how many bottles you would need to fill up the tub. 120 pounds equals 50,000 cubic centimeters, means you need 40 tubs for $255. 150 pounds equals 70,000 cubic centimeters, means you need 32 tubs for $208. 200 pounds equals 90,000 cubic centimeters, means you need 25 tubs for $162.5. 250 pounds equals 110,000 cubic centimeters, means you need 18 tubs for $116. See the trend. The fatter you get, the more cost-effective it becomes to bathe in cheese. At least pertaining to Reddit, where US politics are concerned, we are not a good representation of the voting population in the United States. Mainstream Reddit and the Twitterverse are but a small part of actual voters. Regardless of how overwhelmingly in support of a candidate we all might be, it's not a good indicator of how much support someone, like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, actually have. Less a fact and more my opinion now. I think Reddit tends to do their political activism on Reddit only, to where they receive overwhelming support from other Reddit users. It does nothing for their actual community or spreading a message, while still giving them the satisfaction of having made an impact. I think it's important to remember not to get complacent just because a bunch of Reddit Twitter users support your views and your candidate. We are a very small portion of a much larger population, and we tend to do too much preaching to the choir, so to speak. I guess to counter some people in here, not every real talk, tough to swallow pill or harsh truth that you have to offer someone is going to be accurate to them, or their situation. Sometimes you're actually a fucking dick that is incapable of considering their perspective or feeling empathy towards them. That you need to uplift others to improve society and the world, but everyone is more focused on crushing those around them to ensure their current, or potential, position in the world. There is always someone better than you. That there are people who won't like you or agree with you, and you won't be able to change their minds, so you just have to deal with it. No one is at the wheel. There is no one leading the planet, just powerful people, companies, and countries all struggling together against everyone else for power, money, and control. All children are innocent, but they're not all good. Some people will grow up to be fucking assholes regardless of what they're exposed to. Han shot first. Your friends and family likely talk tons of shit about you behind your back. Having an opinion doesn't make you right. There's always money in the banana stand. You are probably the cause of your own problems because you refuse to look within yourself and deal with it. To be explicit, some people do have a variety of problems that are imposed upon them for a variety of reasons. But that still doesn't mean responding in such a way that it exacerbates everything. Your dog will probably die before you. You can achieve anything you put your mind to is not true, not even close. Genetics play a huge role in whether or not someone will be a good athlete, or a super successful scientist. Can you be an okay athlete if you try really hard and practice really hard? Sure. Will you break world records or play for a professional team? No. You have to be especially gifted in the genetics department to do those sorts of things. The same thing applies for mental pursuits. Not everyone is smart. Some people just don't get it. You can try a million different ways of teaching a subject and some people just won't get it. Critical thinking, the ability to see a problem and visualize how to get a solution, comes much more easily to some people than to others. Can you sit there and memorize things and get good grades and whatnot? Absolutely. Will you ever be a scientist who does extremely important research and solves the world's next huge problem? Probably not, unless you get hired because of nepotism or dragged along by someone who is good at critical thinking. Furthermore, much of what you can do is limited by who you know. If you're rich or your parents are rich and they know lots of people and have a large social network or a lot of people who want to please them for one reason or another, you'll likely find a job in whatever career you want to extremely easily, provided you're not totally inept. If you're the first in your family to get a degree and aren't good at maintaining a social network, you'll likely have an extremely hard time finding a job, even if you are the person best suited for the jobs you are applying for. Even if the job you're applying for is literally what you spent 5 years getting a PhD on, if you don't know somebody, you likely won't get that job. No matter what you do, you polluted the planet. Corona may never go away and be in our lives forever in some capacity. The people who bother you the most in your life probably do so because you're the most similar to them. There are a lot of violent people out there and we aren't really doing much to change that. There are a lot of people hurting each other through sexual violence. And no one is ultimately making any effort to change that. Despite the fact that Reddit doesn't want to hear it, there are a lot of people who are attracted to young people. Throughout history, and today. And until we actually acknowledge that, we are never going to stop people from being abused. The best solution for gun violence in the US that everyone could agree on is targeting the causes of violence. Now there will be issues on specific methods which people will debate, but you would be 10 times more effective in getting movement in that area than by trying to fight the brick wall of gun control versus gun rights. And politicians are never going to do this unless citizens tell them to change focus. Educated people have beliefs too. Education alone is not a magic solution to issues. Anything about someone's dream. The MLM will never make you money. Brittany. Although your parents say so, you cannot sing. Amy. You are not the smartest person in the world. Brandon. Names random. The eradication of the most devastating diseases that we fight today, i.e. cancer, will have potentially devastating unintended consequences. Humans weren't meant to live forever, and a cure for cancer will have interesting effects in the economy and society as a whole, with the world already overcrowded with people. Before I get killed on this, I don't mean for this to sound cruel or heartless. China is always expanding their influence and the Chinese Communist Party treats people terribly. Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. It ain't all about you. People that eat meat while consciously knowing what happens behind the scenes with animals are animal abusers. Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Prophets had no excuse. If you claim to have a connection to God and hear His voice, then the time period in which you live doesn't excuse what you do or prescribe for society. Otherwise, it means your God was limited by the spirit of the era, meaning He isn't omnipotent. Or that God was just wrong. People respect prophets too much. Racism is universal, as in anybody can be racist. The recent attempt to redefine it is laughable. If you assume things or judge anyone based on skin color, good or bad things, you're a racist. Your ideas aren't as unique as you think they are. Your writing isn't as good as you think it is. People won't be as interested in your artwork as you think they will be. Nobody wants to see the screenplay about your experiences and or beliefs. Your stand-up is garbage. Your acting is subpar. Whatever you think your creative talent is, your perception of it is far higher than it deserves to be. There are people out there who are talented when it comes to the arts, no doubt. And every once in a while, there's a breakout. But what usually happens is that a person has a small circle of people that are really supportive, which gives the writer-artist more confidence than they deserve, and they crash and burn when they try to expand their audience. We need to stop consuming animal products the way we currently are. It's absolutely unsustainable. The amount of downvotes this post will receive proves the title of this post. Coronavirus will still be here on January 1, 2021. People act like it'll all be over with on New Year's Day and we'll look back on 2020 as an outlier. No. Just the beginning of an era of insanity. Maybe if some of the fascists are no longer in elected office, politics will calm down, but we'll still have double hurricanes and record fires. AMD pandemic. Not going away. In regard to defunding police from a purely business point of view, business won't invest in new ventures, or existing ventures, in places where crime is high and they're likely to get robbed. Unpopular opinion, but business are more likely to invest in communities with more police, not less. But by all means weed out and fire the fuck out of the bad cops. People who care about mental health, usually only say that as a form of discreet patronism towards people they don't generally get along with. If someone actually cared about the health of one's consciousness having ability, they would say things like "I love you," or "I'm sorry I hurt your feelings," or "I'm grateful you are so optimistic about overcoming that." It just seems unequivocal that the mental health movement is this very nuanced way of promoting force-fed pharmaceutical usage in place of human affection, and sadly, sometimes actual love. Things are going to keep getting worse on our planet and we are in for some serious human tragedy. Just because you've been with someone since high school doesn't mean they're right for you. Don't base your future on childish dreams. Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Some people are just evil. There's not always a reason behind it. Don't believe everything you think. When you die, it could very well be nothing, just blackness, like before you were born. Your personal appearance is incredibly important. Don't be fat. Mental illness is not an excuse for shitty behavior. Your problems are generally the consequence of your own action. If you live in the Western developed world, you are a lot more shallow and materialistic than you'd like to admit in terms of looking for a partner. Your looks and money are huge factors. Possibly even more important than personality. Sitting in goal is not camping if your teammates are both in the corner instead of rotating defensively to far post to replace goalie. No one really gives a shit what your eyebrows look like. The more children you have, the more you contribute to environmental decline. Literally nobody likes hearing this because humans must reproduce yada yada. Prophets had no excuse. If you claim to have a connection to God and hear His voice, then the time period in which you live doesn't excuse what you do or prescribe for society. Otherwise, it means your God was limited by the spirit of the era, meaning He isn't omnipotent, or that God was just wrong. People respect prophets too much. Dumb luck is a really big part of life. Being a dick doesn't make you cool or funny. Laughing at it makes you just as much of a dick. Respecting people makes you seem caring, which in turn can give out a better view of you, rather than having the same 6 friends and being lonely for your entire life. Sounds cringe, but I'm sick of being dicked on and everyone thinking it's cool to keep doing it, as if it's a new trend.